pull back, drop it, hit it. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves, that if you don't do this, I'm going to scream and I'm going to fire you. Hey guys, I'm Teresa Marble and welcome to Dealer School for Blackjack and some carnival games. Today we're going to be working on cutting checks. As you can see, I just have a table with a blanket on it because I want you guys to know that you can practice this even without a table. If you don't have something like this, an ironing board works great. Okay, let's get to it. All right, guys, so like we said, this lesson today is going to be cutting checks. First things first, the difference between chips and checks. Technically, these are chips because they have no value. They're worthless. I cannot take these to a casino cage and get money for them. Checks, like you find on Blackjack, have value attached to them. You give them money, they give you checks. Those checks are worth that actual amount of dollars. Our purpose is you're going to hear me call them checks for the rest of the time. Now, a full stack of checks, or a stack of checks, is 20 checks. I have this little guy over here for some more training purposes later in case you're having trouble doing what I want you to do in this one. Depending on the color and denomination of your checks, that will tell you how to cut your checks down. Red, anywhere I've ever seen forever and ever, is going to be $5 checks. And that's actually what you're going to be using most of the time unless you're on a high limit game. So I'm just going to kind of show you quick things, and we will be going over all of this. Poker dealers do it a little bit differently. The cage does it very differently. Poker dealers, you see, because they're sitting, will do a thing called a thumb cut. I can't even do it properly. It's ugly, it's awful, and I hate it. Do not thumb cut. I should also say that depending on what house you're at, what casino you're at, everybody has different ways of doing things. I'm going to be teaching you the ways I've learned it, and then even at my own casino, we've changed how we do some things. So you need to be able to adjust to change how you work your hands and work checks and cards. Okay, so a good rule of thumb when you're dealing with checks is when you're taking it in and out of your rack is that you're going to go thumb on top. I don't have a rack in front of me right now. Later videos will get a full table, but I do understand that a lot of students, a lot of people watching this are not going to have access to one. So this is something that everybody can do at home. Table, blanket. An ironing board also works really well. So what I mean is if I have a rack in front of me here, you're going to go thumb on top. If you put your thumb on top when you're taking it in or out of the rack, you're always going to do it right. In. If you're taking it out, thumb on top. Red checks worth $5. You're going to be cutting down stacks of 5. So you'll have 4 little mini stacks. Okay. I like to think of it as how it's going to be easiest for your floor supervisor to read this if they need to. I see 25, 50, 75, 100. Nice and simple, easy peasy. So one thing you have to remember is checks are usually just clay. They're not lead. You don't have to be mean to them. Dealing with checks should be a light, fluid motion. So as you can kind of see, I cut off 4. If you need to add one and just drop another one, that's totally fine. That's acceptable. What I super do not want to see ever, and I'll fire you, if you drop checks like this to count them out. I absolutely hate it. I call it the clicking. I don't want clicks. Drives me bonkers. You should be able to feel this. If you do it a million times again and again, you'll be able to feel where 4 checks are and where 5 checks are. Okay, and you can see I'm light with my checks. I'm not over them. This is called palming. You never want to have a really tight grip. It's like when you're grasping sand. If you go too hard, they're going to fall out. If you go too soft, they're going to fall out. You want to get just a nice, clean grip on them. So after I drop that first stack of 5, I'm going to drop it next to it, and you'll see that I'm using my ring finger and my thumb from behind here to push it into that stack. With my pointer finger, I'm going to reach over I've also heard a lot of excuses of, I have small hands, meh, 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 meh. I have really small hands. One, I swear to God, your fingers stretch. It'll be okay. Two, it's not an excuse. You just got to get over it. So you're going to use your pointer finger to drag on the top of that stack and cut into the next stack. And then you're going to pull it off. So you see, I'm very fluid with this. I have barely, you see how they're kind of loose in my hand? It's because I'm not trying to control them too much. I just want them to go where I want them to go, but I don't need to grip them so tight. Then I drop it again. Again, those two fingers come from behind it, hit it, drag across the top. Then I actually heard a really good analogy of you're opening a can of soda pop. So when you're dragging it here, go crack, opening that can of soda. Pull back, drop it, hit it. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves, that if you don't do this, I'm going to scream and I'm going to fire you. You have to cut into this last stack. What you're doing is for your supervisors, for the player, and especially for surveillance, you're proving that all of these stacks are the same. You have to cut into that last stack. I can't tell you how many times I have people do that and don't prove this last stack. Vitally important that you do that. So this is where this little guy comes in. If you're having a problem forgetting that, and if you ever take one of my classes, I will absolutely see it. I will absolutely yell at you for it. Take 21 checks. That way, you get in the habit when you're cutting things down, you just keep going. You have to pretend that you're just going to keep on going forever. So it doesn't stop just because you run out of checks. You just keep going. And what I suggest doing, and we'll get this from other angles too so you can see more what I'm doing. What I suggest doing, because again, like we said, it's either going to be 4 and 5s. Let's do 4. Stack it back up. Again, stack it fully up. Drop 5. Stack 5. 4. And because that's only where you're going to be cutting out 4 and 5. However, when you pay things, you'll be paying 1 check, 2 check, 3 checks, all the way up. So what I suggest there is, 1, you don't really need to worry about. But while you're sitting here just practicing, and this will get you in the habit, do 2, stack it all up, do 3, until you just run out of checks. Stack it back up, and there's your 4. All right, guys, so this is the angle from the dealer's perspective. And again, grabbing the checks, dropping off the 5, behind it, dropping. Again, you can see ring and thumb pushing in from behind it here. Now you can see I'm not worried about this stack being all crazy because it doesn't matter. So I'm going to come in, drag that pointer across that top, pop open that soda can, pull back, drop, push, drag, drop, and push. And remember to prove that last stack. So this is something that you can do at home and practice and practice and practice. The thing is that a lot of these techniques, a lot of how to play the game, counting and all that, and the general rules of the game, you can learn. This is something that just has to get into your hands. You cannot get good at this overnight. It takes hours and hours and hours of practice. What I really suggest is either going getting a poker set, or even better, if you are planning on applying at a certain casino or going to be taking a class, get a stack of checks from that casino if you don't work there. They generally don't allow employees to get theirs. Go to the cage, take $20, get a stack of white for $20. Go home, practice, 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 practice. When I was going through school, I watched TV and I cut checks. Practice with your right hand and with your left hand. You have to be proficient with both. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Teresa Marble. This is Dealer School. Make sure you like and subscribe below. We're going to have a lot more videos coming out. Comment, let me know what you think. And if you have any questions about things on Blackjack, tips and tricks that you're wanting to see, go ahead and let me know. Thanks. All right, guys, so this is a little trick, shuffling checks. Most poker players know how to do it. Most dealers know how to do it. Poker dealers do this a lot when they're sitting on dead games. Blackjack dealers do not. This is not allowed. Keep your hands out of your rack on dead games or I will fire you. Not learning that here. Blackjack school.